Okay, looks like everything's set up. So today, what I wanted to look into first is there were elections in the UK that apparently indicated quite a change from traditional UK elections. Like they have new parties, and the new parties made a lot of ground. So we're gonna look into it. I wanna learn what parties there are and who the people were voting for. Start that. Can you give me a comprehensive breakdown of the different political parties currently active in the UK? Can you tell me what these parties stand for? What's their central message? Here we go. That up a little bit. All right. So we're gonna learn about the different parties, and then I want to see kind of what parties made what kind of gain. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think there was like 5 that got seats. Okay, let's have a look. Here's a comprehensive breakdown of the UK's current active political parties, from the major Westminster players to the key developed and regional parties. The UK has entered what analysts are calling a 5-party era. Well, those are what we want to learn about. With Reform UK, so apparently this is the one that made huge gains, but I'll go into that afterward. Reform UK, Labour, the Conservatives, the Greens, and the Liberal Democrats, all polling in double digits, reflecting deep fragmentation of traditional political alignments. Yeah, because like this was a system that was largely a two-party system for the longest time, and now they've fractured into 5 different parties that are getting seats. You can make new political parties, and they can do well. Okay, I think Labor and the Conservatives are like the traditional two. So here we go. Labor Party, Keir Starmer, um, position center left. Okay, so that's more center left. They're the governing party, right? So they're more liberals or Democrats leaning, but center left. Okay. Labor is the current government holding a majority with a working majority of 165 seats. So they're not only the government, they have a majority in government. Their central message is one of national renewal and economic stability after years of conservative rule. However, the party has struggled in office. Starmer's approval rating after 14 months are the lowest of any prime minister in the past 50 years, and support for Labour has dropped by nearly 14 points. The second largest decline for a governing party in post-war political history. On policy, Labour has been strong on climate and renewables. Personally, like I'm not a big climate person. Um, Renewables, I prefer talk about nuclear. Um, Renewables are great. I don't like it when talk on renewables prevents development of what currently works. Like when your renewable talk and then all of a sudden you lose oil development and then you lose oil security. That is still very important for a nation to have, as we see with the global oil shock that's happening. Oil security is still very important to a nation. You can talk about renewables and developing renewables all you want. Still ensure the oil security and the security of resources is there. I've never been a big climate. I find a lot of climate debate is used to stifle development of meaningful industry. Again, like oil and gas. If you like, climate is important. Trying to get to like net zero and climate goals are important, but can't significantly harm your economy because of climate initiative. They've blocked so many pipelines and stuff in Canada because of this. I think a focus on climate is like, we should be developing our way to where cohabitating with the climate is like easier economically. Right now, so much of what we do is still rather destructive. Doesn't always have to be that way, but like, you can see even solar panels, you gotta clear an area for them, right? Like, they're not great for the economy. I mean, great for the environment. Their waste is still horrible. Production still very energy intensive. The prices come down, but they're not like the magic bullet that's gonna fix everything yet. They'll need development. Anyway, when people talk about climate and renewables, like, usually this is not the party you want in charge, because it's not pragmatic. This is a good goal for, like, to put as like a 50-year out goal. I don't like it when there's such a focus on. Okay. Doubling down on its commitment to clean energy as a path to energy independence. I like energy independence and price stabilization, but critics argue it lacks a clear sense of direction beyond replacing the conservatives. So, not doing really well. Before we learn about the other ones, let's try and find there were recently elections in the UK. Can you show me who got seats and who lost seats in this election? Can you link me to a graph that shows me this? Okay, screwed this one there. Lost election. Can you? Okay, good enough. I want to find a graph so that as we talk about them, we can see how they did in this recent election. Breakdown. Ooh, okay. Whoa, okay. So is this the number of seats they have? And is that below the change that we see? Why is this? Oh, it can do graphs now? Oh my god. I love this. I love this so much. So, total seats won. Okay, first of all, here's a English local elections, the most recent UK-wide elections. Also ran aside the Scottish primary and Welsh. So, this is not for their government. This is like local election for their people that are running municipalities, right? But we're still going to see the change. We just heard about Labour, the current party, who got just over 1,000 seats, but they lost 1,500. Like, that's how unpopular they were. They held by far the most seats, and they have gone down to second behind Reform UK, which basically picked up all the seats they lost. Okay, well we'll learn about the Conservatives next. Leader Kemi, I've never heard of that guy. Center right to right, so center right to right. Just trying to get a mental image of where they stand. Main opposition. The Tories are in a deep identity crisis, hemorrhaging voters to Reform UK on the right. So, center right, right wing populists. And they're losing massive numbers of voters to the more right wing party. Hemorrhaging voters to Reform UK on the right, their current platform has shifted noticeably rightwards. They have completely dropped their commitment to net zero by, I mean, that is an incredibly left-leaning agenda. And you call yourself center right to right with that kind of agenda? I mean, like, I've talked about it, and this is not like the net zero is not a bad goal to have as long as you don't destroy your economy. Like, you should put money into the economy in specific ways in order to get to net zero. Like, you fund research and development here. You fund this initiative, you fund these kinds of businesses to push towards net zero. But as soon as you start negatively impacting businesses to reach net zero, you get a lot of problems, and because like that's a dangerous thing to have a specific deadline on. Like, it doesn't inspire confidence in the economy. And so much of governments work on confidence that this is just a terrible idea. Despite being the party that introduced it in 2019, and are doubling down on support for North Sea oil and gas. I mean, like, you have your own oil and gas supply. You should be developing it. Although I think after this war in Iran, there's going to be some massive change in the oil and gas sector. Like, we're seeing the fracturing of the big OPEC producers, and they were a group that kept oil prices elevated. And if they fracture, you could see oil prices fall. And I mean, like, Canadian oil is not cheap to produce, and so is American oil. Both more expensive. So we're gonna see what happens there. Anyway, I was getting lost. They also advocate scrapping the mandate for electric vehicles. Like, electric vehicles are the future, but I don't think you. I think you let that industry figure itself out. When batteries get good enough, it'll just become the product people go to. Trying to push a mandate for it is not productive. Uh, Repealing the Climate Change Act. I don't know what that is, but axing the carbon tax. I mean, I always disliked it. Why are you taxing carbon? You should be taxing like production, profits. Like, you should be raising corporate taxes rather than creating a new tax for a specific group of companies. You should be raising taxes, I think, across the board. And you'd have a lot less pushback than specifically raising a carbon tax. And reforming the IR 35, no idea, rules to simplify tax for the self-employed. I mean, that's just good. I think self-employed is going to become a bigger aspect of most economies. On social policy, they have proposed banning social media for under 16s. I mean, I support that. And restoring individual liberties and personal responsibilities as guideline principles. No idea. They lost a bunch of seats in local elections. Okay. So, center right, they have some really bad ideas that it looks like they've mostly abandoned. Let me just check. Second. Okay, there we go. But at the same time, like, if you've had bad ideas, it makes it hesitant. It makes me hesitant to like support you. You appear to be moving in the right direction, but net zero, trying to push that as a party, talk about destroying your own economy. Okay, how'd they do? Conservatives. I guess this makes sense, right? They have 801 seats, down 500 seats. But from what we were reading, most of that was stolen by Reform UK, which is like the more right. So let's see, because this is the party that did incredibly well by Nigel Farage. I think, wasn't he part of the Conservatives? Like, he's the guy that kind of like led the Brexit movement, but he didn't do it as Reform UK. He did it as one of these party leaders. Pretty sure Conservative. And now he's making a comeback with a new political party, a right-wing populist party, fast rising insurgent. Reform is the most dramatic story in British politics right now. The party has experienced a dramatic surge in support, becoming the second largest party by membership, with approximately 250,000 members by late 2025. Reform advocates reduced taxation, public sector reform, and strict border policies, including proposals for the mass deportation of illegal immigrants, and continues to emphasize post-Brexit independence from EU regulations. So a doubling down on Brexit. Let's go through the advocate. Reduce taxation. Like, I am someone who generally argues for larger government structure. Like, I would personally like to see some kind of UBI or universal basic income. Like, removing barriers to business is important. And a lot of times, if you enlarge government, then large barriers. That's just a part of it. But you can do it without enlarging the regulations and barriers to business. That like reduced taxation is just like, let's reduce the amount of money we have to work with to make our country better as a government. Like you're giving an awful lot to the private industry with it. This is almost like the government stepping back. And I don't know, like, every time they say reduce taxation, they reduce taxes on the rich. They don't reduce taxes on the average person. The rich pay less tax. And that's just how it goes. And this has happened every time. So I don't like that one. Public sector reform, I have no idea what they're talking about there. Stricter border policy. I think this was one of the big ones. Because from my understanding, when the UK left the EU, they left a lot of agreements that were there, and they actually ended up with significantly more immigration, illegal immigration in their country, because they left the larger structure that was kind of handling that. And so they had a huge illegal immigration problem that they're now, clearly there's very high support in solving. Mass deportation of illegal immigrants, just like what we're seeing in the US. Like, say what you want, mass deportation of illegal immigrants is a winning policy. It's won in the US, and it's showing significant support in the UK. And continue to emphasize post-Brexit independence from EU regulation. Now, post-Brexit independence. Honestly, like I don't know if that's a good one. I think, I mean, I'm gonna look this up a bit later, but I'm pretty sure leaving the EU has been disastrous for the EU. I'm gonna look that up in a bit. Reform went into the 2024 elections with a anti-woke, anti-immigration, anti-net zero policy. I mean, like, that's what wins right there. Anti-woke, anti-immigration, anti-net zero policy platform, and has sharpened those messages since. In the May 2026 local elections, reform took, okay, yeah, so now it's telling us what's happened down here in the local election. Like, this party has come out of nowhere. They had 2 seats in local elections, and they've gone up to almost 1,500. Like, that is a shift. Yeah, this one goes up by 200. This one goes up by 500. Like that. These bars should be basically the same size. They just got all their seats. Oh, there's other movement. Liberals and the Greens both done particularly well. So, what have we learned? anti-woke, anti-immigration, and anti-net zero. So net zero is the whole carbon stuff. But people don't like the focus on the environment to the degree that it hampers the economy. Immigration control is just it's always important. And I feel like when the UK left the EU, they actually had less immigration control. And so there's a big push for that. And anti-woke. I guess that kind of just goes with this, right? I don't know. I don't get that. Like, I dislike DEI. But I feel like that term encompasses too much to just support or not support it as it is. All right, Liberal Democrats, center left. So what was the other center left party? Center left. The Labor got demolished. So center left. The Liberal Democrats occupy the Liberal center ground. The party is positioned as a moderate alternative to both Labor and Conservative. So they're trying to be center. The particular focus on constitutional reform and proportional representation. Ed Davey. Ed Davey. Third party in Westminster. Ed Davey has hinted that electoral reform could be the price of a future coalition deal with Labor. I guess they're both closely aligned, right? They are strong on environmental policy. I'm not a big supporter of that. And the Lib Dems want to introduce a clean water authority and a sewage tax. Now, the clean water stuff, I think in England do their water really weak. Like, haven't they like privatized water to an extreme extent or something? Has the UK privatized water? Like, I remember watching something about farmers in the UK, and how they have to consider water prices. Here in the UK, you're looking well. The water industry in England and Wales famously privatized. The rest of the UK follows a different path. The breakdown by region. So England, which is the big region, right? Water and sewage services are provided by private companies. Companies are regional monopolies, meaning you cannot choose your supplier. They are overseen by the economic regulator. I don't remember. I just know that water prices was a big concern to farmers. So like trying to create a clean water authority. Probably good. A sewage tax. I hate how they have to introduce a new tax and then say that this tax pays for this. I would like cleaner across the board taxation, and then the money is split appropriately, rather than, oh, we have to create a new sewage tax and then we can use this new sewage tax. Like, just raise property tax and be like, okay, yeah, the property taxes have to go up or whatever it is you needed to fund. But no, they like creating new taxes and have a policy continue and have a policy to break the link between the price of gas and electricity to lower energy. Party has also invested heavily in climate action policies, including a rapid rollout of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Okay, that's the first thing I've heard from them that I like. Because I do think eventually most vehicles will be electric and getting the infrastructure in place. I mean, like, private industry will take care of it once the numbers are right, though. And proposal to tax companies that fail to meet carbon reduction targets. Okay, this party so far of all the parties sounds the worst. Like I even like this one more than I like that one. I didn't like this one. Yeah, like so far Reform UK, Conservatives are moving in the right direction. Reform UK I would have probably been the one I supported so far. And this guy's just lost so much support. Like, I don't even know if this is doing justice, given the amount of support he has lost. Okay, how did the Liberal Democrats do? They saw a modest increase, 155 seats, little increase. Puts them above the Conservatives. So more center. I mean, like, right, center, and left don't do a really good job at explaining what parties think. Man, it's wild how much support you saw in just this election for Reform UK. Like they've definitely tapped into something. The Greens. So the Greens have also seen massive support. 411 seats. Here we go. Zach Polinsky, left wing / eco socialist status surging. The Greens have had a remarkable recent rise. Since Zach Polinsky's election as leader last September, Green Party membership has soared above 180,000, overtaking first the Liberal Democrats and then the Conservatives. The party now regularly polls around 15%. Buoyed by Polinsky's populist left-wing agenda, the Greens. So this is a populist left-wing agenda. And this is the populist right-wing. Okay. The Greens have criticized the end of freedom of movement with the EU and have challenged prevailing economic orthodox, including supporting calls for the Bank of England to end interest payments on reserves held by commercial lenders. What? Something tells me there's a story behind that one. In the 2026 election, the Greens gained this. This isn't telling me what they stand for. At least I got anti-woke, anti-immigration, anti-net zero for Reform UK. I need more information than that. Independence went up a little bit. Still though, so I'm not gonna try and go into that. But yeah, they made quite a bit of growth. Still behind the other four parties, but noticeable gains while the Conservatives and the Labour are losing. Can you tell me what the Green Party in England stands for? Is it the UK? Okay, what's this? The story these charts tell us start. Reform UK dominated, taking 1,453 councillor positions, an increase of 1,451. They had 2 seats. And gained control of 14 councils, while Labour suffered a historic collapse, losing 1,496 seats and control over 38 councils. The other noticeable winners was the Greens. The Green Party gained 411 seats to reach 587 total, and took 5 councils, including Lambeth and Lewisham in London for Labour. The Lib Dems also picked up ground steadily. This was just the English local elections. On the same day, the SNP won the most seats in the Scottish primary for the 5th time, and in Wales, Labour suffered a historic defeat in this Sadet election, taking only 9 of 96 available seats, while Plaid Cymru took 43 and Reform UK took 34. So you're actually seeing this even play out. What is this? The Scottish primary? Scottish and Wales, I think we're doing. Okay. Central messaging, this is what we want. Under their new leader, Zach Polinsky, the Greens have rebranded around what he calls eco-populism, combining environmental policies. And I'm not a big supporter of environmental policy. They are a good goal to put investment into, I would say. But building a political brand around environmental politics, I think is dangerous, because the more you focus on the environment, the more harm you will do to the economy. And so it's kind of like a game. You can't focus on the environment to the point where you destroy the economy. Now, I do like specifically R&D into environment aspects, like putting research into development into making a process consume less or produce less carbon, or creating or putting money into carbon capture technology, because I think that's the way out. That's how you fix the problem. Cutting back, what this leads to is suddenly your economy exports the most carbon intensive aspects of the process, and you export it to a country with no controls over carbon. So whereas if you had this in your own country, you could manage carbon output to a degree. Having it in a foreign country just means you don't get to manage it at all. The amount of carbon per process will go up, and it's one world. You're not helping the world, okay? A lot of environmental policies don't help the world. That's not good. If you're gonna do environmental politics, at least do ones that'll help the world. So much of that carbon capture, the carbon rebate on the forest, that's just so much of that is so much of that. And so I'm always wary whenever someone says environmental politics. And with populism, linking issues such as high cost of living with climate change, High cost of. I mean, like those are hard to link. Like, I mean, I guess climate change. Does it run up cost of living? Like in specific cases, I'm sure it does. But generally, I'm not sure if there's a strong correlation. Okay. Alinsky argues that people are unable to consider the climate crisis if they are struggling with day-to-day material concerns, such as high rent. Okay. Now he's saying something I can understand. Unable to consider. Go through this again. Alinsky argues that people are unable to consider the climate crisis if they are struggling with day-to-day material concerns such as high rent, food costs, or heating bills. Yeah. People generally have a smaller picture when their life is hard. When their life is hard, they're focused on their life. And so things like the cost of living, if you want people to care about climate, reduce their cost of living. Make living easier, and they will care about the climate. The issue is a lot of the things that make their life easier are developing the economy, which generally has a negative impact on the environment. And so you got yourself like a problem. In short, the pitch is you can't save the planet if you can't pay your rent. And the same greedy system is responsible for both problems. Like, I like it other than the focus on the environmental politics. Like that's kind of the killer for me. We're not going to go into too much depth and do that with the other parties. Yeah. So how did they do? Greens 144. So they did great. That's a great. That's a great gain. So these are left. So these are like center left, center right, far left, far right. But the story is here, right? From 2 seats to 1,453. That all comes back to anti-woke, anti-immigration, and anti removing the inhibitions created by climate activism, fixing the immigration system, which, in my opinion, took damage during Brexit. Anti-woke. Woke covers too much. Some I agree with, some I don't. I mean, like, if this wasn't the person leading it, this would be probably the one I support. But, like, he comes with baggage. Oh. Anyway, I'm happy to see there's more parties now. I like this. I think we should be creating more parties that are competitive like this. I'd like to see more parties in Canada because we traditionally have a 3-party system. But hey, we can always make a new party, right?